All right, happy Sabbath, everyone. Welcome to our Nasoka discussion panel. Today we have with us 4 Bible guests. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Sure. I'm Joseph.
I'm Daniel.
Zacchaeus.
And I'm Esther.
Awesome. And then how's everyone doing today?
Good. It's a good Sabbath.
Good. Awesome.
I love the Sabbath, yeah.
It's a good day. All right, so we're going to get right into the questions. And the first one's going to be for you, Daniel.
All right.
Were you scared during your time in the Lion's Den?
In the Lion's Den, scared, sure. You're kind of nervous about everything that's going on. But, I gave my life to God, and I was confident no matter if I lived or died, that I'm safe in His hands.
And Esther, were you scared?
Yeah, I wasn't sure whether I was gonna be put to death or not, so yeah, I was scared.
Scary thing. All right, next question is going to be for Zacchaeus. What was the easiest part about being set apart by God?
The easiest part was once I gave my life to God, I didn't really care what other people thought about me. My reputation didn't change. I was always the tax collector to everybody, even though I didn't really do that anymore, didn't take advantage of people. But they still thought I was, but it didn't matter to me because God had already accepted me when I was at my worst.
Absolutely. Wonderful.
Thank you for sharing that. And Joseph, what was the easiest part about being set apart by God?
There's a lot of trials, but the easiest thing about being set apart was probably just getting to work with so many different people and seeing how God could use me in different situations. I was sold into slavery, but then I got to work with Potiphar and show God's love to him, and then in the prison, and then to Pharaoh, I got to show God's love. So that was probably the easiest part, was just reflecting God's love.
And this question is for everyone, but we can start with Daniel if you want to start this off. What was the biggest challenge about being set apart by God?
There's many challenges when we decide to give our life to Christ. The devil does not like us to do that, and so he gives us many obstacles and hoops to jump through. But the challenge is, a lot of my friends being captured by Babylon, taken, just Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, and myself. There were a lot of other people, but we were the 4 that made the statement, and to be healthy and do what we've been called to do by God. That first peer pressure, I would say, probably was the hardest part, just because it was that first big statement in front of your friends, and
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Esther?
I would say the biggest challenge with being set apart would be whenever we went that day and everyone else was there and they had on their nice scarves and they had their hair done. They were putting the cucumbers on their face, and I think the hardest challenge was being like, I am who I am, and I feel like I'm beautiful in my ways. I don't need those things. So being, I don't know if you could say judged, but being judged by others is hard whenever I don't need those things that other people have.
Yeah, for sure. Joseph?
Biggest challenge. Probably just staying faithful. There are so many temptations to just give up hope and not serve God, especially when I was in prison and I'd been forgotten about for so many years after I'd helped the cupbearer. It was just a challenge to stay faithful to God and just remember that He was in control. So that was probably the biggest challenge.
And Zacchaeus?
The biggest challenge was probably not having that support group to fall back on. Staying kind of being on the outside of everybody, even though that I know that Christ accepted me for who I was. It's a whole lot easier to believe and stay faithful when you have some friends that you can fall back on. But I didn't really have that, and so trying to stay faithful, you go through highs and lows. Trying to stay faithful and not go back to what I was doing before because it was so easy. That was probably the biggest challenge, is to stay faithful.
Yeah, that sounds difficult. What effect has the trials that you guys just talked about had on your spiritual walk? open to the floor.
It makes me stronger in the Lord, I'd say. You know, whenever you see Him work, is the most powerful part for me. You know, hearing about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace, you know, that's powerful stuff there. And then not getting killed in the lion's den, where the lions are obviously very hungry. It's just a powerful message, and especially when it affects you yourself. Your relationship with God really grows.
Absolutely.
I would say for myself, once I started praying, I saw God working just like Daniel, and once that started happening, it really affected my faith in a very positive way. And so I knew that if I trusted on Him, that He would deliver.
I think it's very important to realize that no matter who you are, it's always going to be ups and downs. You're going to have really spiritual highs. I don't think I ever reached the high that I was when Jesus called me out of the tree and said, I'm coming to your home. That was probably the highest I had felt, but even though my relationship had grown from there, that's when the feeling was the highest. And just, it's just normal to go through those troubles and then back up and then back down. So.
Yeah, I would have to agree with everyone. The highs and the lows, but the lows are where your relationship gets the strongest, because you have to trust God. Like when you're in a situation where you have zero control over the outcome, you just have to put it out before God and watch Him work.
Awesome. Now, during your stories, what is something that you guys have always been able to praise God for throughout the whole time?
His never-ending faithfulness to me. I mean, He was always 10 steps ahead of my situation and preparing the way for me, and I could see that every step of the way that God was there with me.
I would have to agree with Joseph. Like, once I saw that He was there, like, I knew He wasn't going to leave.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think Joseph hit it right on the head, and when He is faithful to us, He's been faithful to all of us. That's just powerful to me myself.
He's always there, never want to leave. You just have to ask.
Now, as you guys have mentioned, everybody has hard times, everyone has their highs and their lows, but my question to you guys is, how can your story help others as they go through their difficult times?
You know, there's a lot of times that we may feel that we're in the lion's den, but it's difficult at that time. I would say look around and see your blessings. Look around and see that you're got a nice big pillow like a lion would lay on, and imagine the angels sitting there with you, protecting you and keeping you safe. So many blessings that we have that we really don't even know that we have been given them.
Your attitude can affect lots of people, even though you may not see results. Even though my life changed, I don't know if I've affected more people or not. I know Christ affected me, and I hope by me living through Christ that Christ will be shown throughout my actions. So I never really had anybody come up to me and say, wow, like, your story is really inspiring to me, or anything like that. I'm just do my best to live by Christ, and if Christ can influence others by my example, that's good enough.
My good friend Daniel told me the story of when he was in the lion's den, and something he mentioned was he didn't focus on the lion, he was focused on God. And so I think during our trials here on earth, it's all about where we're looking, where we're focused. If we focus on God, then the other stuff doesn't seem to be such a big deal. But if we focus on our struggle, then that is overwhelming. So focus on God.
In my story, I was set apart for God to do His work, and so I had to depend on Him fully. And I would say in everybody's lives, if you are set apart by God, which you more than likely are, then you just have to depend on Him fully. And I think once you read my story, then you can see that if you do that, He will help you and help you through your times.
All right, so as we wrap up, I just have one more question for you guys, and that is, would you like to make a closing statement to our viewers about being set apart by God?
Sure, yeah. I would say if you let God lead, He will set you apart, and you may not feel qualified, but He doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies those He calls.
Joseph, that was well said. Perhaps he was going to say the last part there. But I would say there is no greater honor than being allowing God to set you apart.
Yeah. Being set apart will be the best decision and maybe one of the hardest decisions, but it's the hardest decisions that are the most rewarding.
Yeah, I agree with Zacchaeus. Once you're set apart by God, you have to depend on Him. Like, it's not going to work unless you listen to Him and actually do what He tells you to do.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for being here and answering these questions.
Yeah.
And for those of you guys watching, we hope that you have a happy rest of your Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath.
Happy
Sabbath.